Let's be honest, we're biologically pathetic. A squishy meat balloon that bad sushi sidelines for 3 days and has us calling for our mother. Trip on a sidewalk, broken bone. Let's face it, we are the Jar Jar Binks of the genetic lottery. And while we're playing life on easy mode, and still losing, these creatures are playing life on hell mode, and winning. They treat radiation like it's a seasoning, and sub-zero temps like nap time. Today, 14 biological anomalies that make human survival look like a joke. Frogs that can stop their own hearts, beetles that are practically bulletproof, and way more. Okay, let's hit it and get weird. Meet the wood frog. It looks like your standard swamp hopper, but it's actually a biological zombie. When winter hits, this frog doesn't hibernate, it transforms into a frozen rock. A literal freaking ice cube. Here's the physics. Water expands when it freezes. Duh. If that happens inside your cells, they burst like water balloons dropped off a roof and you die a painful death. And the wood frog knows this. So the moment its skin touches ice, its liver goes into overdrive, pumping massive amounts of glucose, sugar, into its blood. It's essentially filling its veins with simple syrup, which sounds like the kind of stuff I pour into a cocktail, but I digress. This acts as a cryoprotectant, lowering the freezing point of fluids inside the cells. The water between the cells freezes solid. The heart stops, the brain stops, it's clinically dead. And it sits there, stiff as a board at sub-zero temps for months. Then, the moment things warm up, it thaws from the inside out and hops off to get laid. Honest to God, it is nature's ultimate morning wood. And then there's the tardigrade, also known as the water bear, or the moss piglet, which I much prefer. It looks like a gummy bear in a hazmat suit, and these things are playing life on God mode. You can boil them, freeze them to absolute zero. Okay, fine, near absolute zero. Don't make me explain thermodynamics, this is a wildlife video. Anyway, you can fire them out of a gun at 3,000 feet per second. You can even toss them into the vacuum of space, which we did because science is essentially just nerdlingers bullying small things to see what happens. Their secret is cryptobiosis. They expel nearly all the water in their body and replace it with a distinct protein that turns their insides into a glass-like matrix. They don't just pause metabolism, they stop it completely. Look at this little guy, he can't wait. And they can stay in this ton state for 30 years. Then, just add water, and they rehydrate like the world's most resilient instant noodles. Living on the side of a hydrothermal vent, the Pompeii Worm has the most stressful thermostat setting in history. Its tail sits in water that's 176 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to slow cook a chicken, while its head sticks out into water that's a chilly 72 degrees. That's a temperature difference of over 100 degrees across a body length of a short pencil. It survives because its back is covered in a fleece of bacteria that acts like a firefighter's heat shield, dissipating the thermal energy. Basically, it drapes itself in repulsive unwashed organisms. You know, like your friend Steve. And now, this charming fellow found down in the crushing abyss. The anglerfish deals with pressure, specifically up to 2,500 psi. That's like having a Toyota Camry parked on your thumb. To survive, it has no air spaces in its body. It's basically a gelatinous muscle bag. And since food is scarce, it uses a bioluminescent lure filled with glowing bacteria to trick prey. It activates the bacteria like a motion sensor light. One move, and they go off. Basically, it's a swimming mouth with a flashlight attached to its forehead. Very sexy indeed. These are giant tube worms. They have no mouth. They have no stomach. They have no anus. They are just a boring tube of mystery. You know, like that quiet guy in IT who definitely has a manifesto on his hard drive. They live next to vents spewing toxic hydrogen sulfide. Instead of eating, they farm bacteria inside their bodies that convert the toxic chemicals into energy. It's called chemosynthesis. So, basically, they run on poison and farts. The vampire squid hangs out in the oxygen minimum zone, where the oxygen saturation is less than 5%. Most animals would suffocate instantly. But this goth kite survives because it has a metabolism slower than a DMV line on a Friday. It barely moves, drifting like a discarded umbrella eating marine snow, which is a polite scientific term for fish poop and dead skin. Yuck. At first glance, this thing looks like a dirty sponge that someone kicked across a parking lot. But no, this is the Xenophyophore, or something like that, and it is the Godzilla of the cellular world. While most cells are invisible to the naked eye, this absolute unit decides to grow to the size of a grapefruit. To survive at the extreme depths of places like the Mariana Trench, Xenophyophores build a custom test shell by gluing together sand grains, tiny skeletal fragments, and other particles from the seafloor with organic material. A large part of the interior of this structure is packed with branching tubes full of waste pellets and indigestible material, so a significant fraction of the organism's bulk is essentially stored poop. But this is mixed with sediment and tissue rather than forming a solid armored shell on its own. And if living in a poop bunker wasn't metal enough for you, this thing also acts as a radioactive sponge. It passively absorbs massive levels of uranium, mercury, and lead from the water. It doesn't die, it just gets more toxic, just like your friend Todd. So essentially, we're looking at a radioactive, heavy metal, poop-covered sphere of hate that lives in the darkest pit of the ocean. It's gross, it's dangerous, and honestly, it's genius. Most crabs are happy scurrying around a nice beach, pinching tourists' toes. But the hydrothermal vent crab looked at that lifestyle and said, nah, I'd rather live in hell. These maniacs set up shop right next to deep-sea hydrothermal vents, literally underwater volcanoes spewing toxic, superheated water that can reach 750 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a pitch-black, crushing, poisonous nightmare that would boil a lobster in seconds, but these guys are just down there chilling in a mosh pit. But the real kicker is how some eat. A kind of the hydrothermal vent crab called a yeti doesn't hunt. Instead, they grow a carpet of bacteria on their own hairy chests and arms, using the toxic vent fumes to fertilize it. Then, when they get hungry, they just use their mouth parts to comb the bacteria off their own body and eat it. Ugh. It's the biological equivalent of growing a salad in your armpit hair and snacking on it whenever you get the munchies. It's repulsive, it's unhygienic, and it's an absolute survival perfection strategy. The kangaroo rat lives in Death Valley. It can go its entire life without drinking a single drop of liquid. Not one. It gets all its moisture from seeds. Its kidneys are so efficient, 4 times more efficient than yours, that its pee is basically a paste. Yum. If you peed like a kangaroo rat, it would hurt. A lot. And it's not just the ultimate water conservationist. It's a tiny furry ninja. If a rattlesnake tries to strike, the kangaroo rat actually jump kicks the snake in the face in midair, striking back like a girl who grew up with 6 older brothers. Pure reflex, zero hesitation, and a kick straight to the face, or nads, as the case may be. And now we have the desert tortoise, which is basically a grumpy sentient rock that hates cardio. It survives the scorching Mojave heat by spending 95% of its life underground in a bunker, sleeping. It's the ultimate doomsday prepper. But its hydration strategy is where things get nasty. The tortoise can go over a year without drinking because it carries a backup water supply in its bladder. It literally walks around with a built-in canteen full of pee. If it gets thirsty during a drought, its body reabsorbs water from the urine. It's the Bear Grylls of the reptile world, surviving entirely on its own waste. A fair warning though, if you pick one up, its defense mechanism is to immediately void that bladder. It will dump its entire year's supply of hydration all over your shoes. It would literally rather die of thirst than hang out with you. My toxic trait is believing this bear genuinely wants a high five, and isn't just measuring my skull to see if it fits in its mouth. But honestly, the whole bear is a fraud. He looks white, but that's a lie. His fur is actually clear hollow tubes acting like fiber optics to funnel sunlight down to his skin, which is jet black. He is essentially a solar-powered goth wearing a clear raincoat. He is not a cute Coca-Cola mascot. He is a heat-absorbing murder machine that will find you very tasty. Now, if you think the polar bear is cool, this guy is an upgrade. It doesn't just freeze for a winter, it can stay frozen in the permafrost for years. This salamander is the real-life outlander, but he doesn't need to touch magic stones at Kranadun to time travel. He just turns into a meatsicle. He freezes solid for decades and wakes up in the future. The ultimate slimy Sassenach. Probably just disappointed he woke up in the mud, and hungry, and not next to a sexy lass. The Alpine Ibex is the Alex Honnold of the animal kingdom, but without the safety ropes or the sponsorship deal. It scales near vertical dam walls, straight up 90 degrees of concrete, just to lick the salt off the stones. It defies gravity, risking a fatal plummet every single second. Imagine hanging off a skyscraper by your fingernails just because you really wanted a pretzel. It's nature's Spider-Man, motivated entirely by a desperate need for sodium. If you think that salamander's tough, hold this guy's beer. The flatbark beetle dehydrates itself until its insides turn into a glass-like substance that simply cannot freeze. Scientists have chilled these things down to minus 150 degrees centigrade, temperatures that would shatter steel, and they still woke up. You could practically throw this bug into deep space and it would just complain about the lack of tree bark. This thing is built like a microscopic brick shithouse. So there you have it. Nature is a cruel laboratory that occasionally produces indestructible monsters. While you complain when the AC goes out, the Pompeii worm is chilling in a thermal vent and the wood frog is spending the winter as an ice cube. Let me know in the comments which of these biological weirdos you'd want on your apocalypse team. I'm taking the tardigrade. If you learned something, or if you now have a new fear of deep-sea tubes, please hit that subscribe button. Now go outside, but maybe stay away from the volcanic vents.